Hey guys, welcome to week 2 of our study together. So we're going to look at 4 verses today, James 5 through 8. This is what James tells us. He says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Remember our context. James ended in verse 4 by saying, when you endure, you will come out of trials knowing that you have everything you need, that you will be full, that you will be perfect and complete. And notice what he says, you'll be lacking in nothing. Then he pivots in verse 5 and uses the same verb and says, if any of you lacks wisdom. What do you think of when you think of wisdom? For me, I think of Master Yoda. I think of a Jedi Knight. I think of Gandalf. I think of Dumbledore. I think of old wise counsel. The word for wisdom, Sophia in the Greek, it has a way of talking about technical skill. And what I have here is a bunch of tools. Now, I gave these tools to my kids the other day, and I spent a lot of time putting all the tools back in. See, my kids they don't have the technical skill to be able to know how to use these, and also what problems call for these kind of tools. I fixed Stella's bike. I put training wheels back on and adjusted them, and I knew exactly what I needed in order to get that done. That's what wisdom is. There's a difference between being a general practitioner in the medical field and being a specialist. And that's what wisdom is. Wisdom helps us become specialists in life. And where do we go to get that kind of wisdom? Well, James says we go to God. James says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach. One of the things I learned in studying the original language here is James actually gives us a beautiful picture of God. He actually calls God, let him ask the giving God, or the gifting God. That's literally what he says. What a way of looking at God, that God is a God who is defined by his giving, by his generosity. And this is what he says, that God gives generously to all. And I love this little statement here. He says, without reproach. What does it mean that God gives without reproach? I think I have a way to illustrate this that'll resonate with each of us. Here's some currency right now, okay? What does it mean to give generously without reproach? Someone who's hoarding toilet paper right now, if you go to them and said, hey, I need some toilet paper, to give with reproach would kind of look like this. You should have been more prepared. You're coming to me because you need this, and you weren't prepared for it. You didn't have the foresight. You didn't have the planning. You were busy wasting your time and not preparing. God doesn't give like that. God gives with joy. He doesn't mock us for our desperation. God doesn't make fun of us for our needs. He says, I want to give to you generously, abundantly. So wisdom comes from God. And James is teaching us who God is. He's a generous giver. So what kind of person receives wisdom from God? James is very clear. This is who God is. He is a gift-giving God. He is a God who doesn't mock our need, doesn't make fun of us for being desperate, that he wants to give us the technical skill. So what kind of person receives this wisdom? It's a person who is intimately walking every day with God. It's someone who's in a relationship with him. It's impossible to be in a marriage if it's one person in and the other person out. And that's the kind of doubt that James is addressing here. As someone who is not really sure about the Lord and is going back and forth on whether or not he is good. We all go through seasons of doubt. And Jesus in his time on earth was always quick to shore up people's confidence. So doubt doesn't have to be a sin. Doubt can be redemptive. But perpetual doubt that constantly stands in the face of what God has communicated in his word and says, I can't believe that, I won't believe that. There's a doubt that is healthy, and then there's a doubt that is rebellious. And this is the doubt that James is talking about. So this is the person who receives wisdom from God, the person who walks intimately with him, a person who is not viewing God through the lens of their circumstances, that God gives wisdom in a relationship with people. So 2 questions, one a spiritual question and one a care question. The spiritual question is this: where are you finding it difficult to trust God? That is at the front line of your faith right now. That if there's an area in your life where you're struggling to trust God and who he is, why don't you in prayer ask God this week to say, God, would you strengthen my trust in you? Would you strengthen my resolve? And the care question is this. Last week we asked you to share your highs and your lows. That would be another great thing to do this week. Another care question to add on top of that is simply this: how are you doing physically? How are you doing physically? How has your rest been? How has your eating habits been? I don't know how your group wants to tackle it, but God cares about our physical bodies. So take some time sharing with each other, hey, physically, how are you keeping physically healthy in the midst of lockdown? So guys, next week, if you want to read ahead, we're actually going to be studying through verses 9 all the way through verse 11. So we're going to go as slow as we need to. James is full of quick punches here. And so we're going to be in 9 through 11 next week. So just to review this week, God is a generous, giving God. And with God is wisdom. But that wisdom, that skill, and that technical expertise to navigate every moment in life is only possible in an intimate relationship with God. And an intimate relationship with God means that both parties are committed. God's always committed to us. The question is, are we trusting in God? Are we living a single-minded life committed to him? There can be healthy and unhealthy doubt. Healthy doubt is the kind that invites God to shape our confidence. Unhealthy doubt believes God is powerless to change our mind. That's the difference. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying the study of James. If you have questions from your study, I would love to hear them. Please share with me. You can email me. You can text me. If you guys have ideas on how to make this study better, we would love to hear it. So I hope you guys are doing well. Praying for you as you meet in your groups this week. Let's be praying for each other. Let's have a great week.